Hello, America. To our friends around the world, welcome to the Common Sense Show. My name is Dave Hodges. I'm the host, and we're the show freeing America one enslaved mind and hopefully soul at a time. We serve God family country. We're trying to protect it. We're trying to restore it as much as we can, the emphasis on God because all else follows. And we have a special place in our heart for the oppressed. And you have seen me do that for years and years and years, whether I was defending Stacy and Monica or whoever's cause we decide to jump into. We've tried to do the right thing. We certainly are not perfect, but we do feel we're serving the Lord and He guides. And whatever we've done well, we owe it to Him because I'm just the vessel. The show is just the instrument for the Lord to advance the kingdom. I am currently not home, and you can tell by the background. That's our little artificial that we use when we're on the road. And so our quality diminishes somewhat from our studio, but hey, we feel that the world must go on. Here are the Watchmen Conference. Let me talk about that real quickly here. Mike and Jeannie, they are so awesome. They have been doing this for a decade, and I am honored to be a part of it and have a speaker role in this. And it's just, I get to rub elbows with great people like Jamie Walden and just all the rest of the people that are here. And I believe that people that come here to the conference will be renewed, restored sometimes in their faith, sometimes get introduced to being faithful to Jesus and come to realize the benefits. And then I'm hoping we send disciples of Christ out into the world to change things as best as we can as God gives us the light to see how to do it. So that's what I'm here and this is what I'm doing. And I have a confession to make before we go to our first break. I developed this really, I think, well thought out, developed over time, because I knew I was going to be doing this a year ago. And I do it just about every year. So I'm thinking, what do I think that people need to know? And so I devised this presentation. And I thought, well, we certainly are going to make it scriptural. So we combine the current events and we look at the fourth horseman, for example, and we try to bring scripture into it. Uh, I'm on the plane on the second leg of my journey to the conference in Missouri. And I don't know if it was a word of knowledge from the Lord. I believe it was the Holy Spirit saying, you need to look at your presentation again. And I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not getting rid of the whole thing, but I'm making a serious modification because I believe that I'm getting word of knowledge from the Lord that's helping me connect the dots beyond my human ability to do so. And a lot of people think I'm pretty good at connecting the dots and seeing patterns and things, but this is supernatural. This is beyond me. This isn't to pat myself on the back and, gee, look at me, look how smart I am. That is not what this is about. This is what I believe I am supposed to let people know at this conference. Now, I believe the conference is sold out, but they're going to be doing on demand. So all you got to do to know more, and by the way, I'm not getting paid to say this, but I want people to do this. Go to hearthewatchman.com and you'll see how to watch it live or how to see it, in retrospect. And I would really encourage you. There are so many great people here. And I've looked at my schedule here and say, oh, got to see this, got to see that. And I become a regular member of the audience to some of the great people that are here speaking. Now, with regard to one of the revelations I have, I'm going to share a couple with you in today's segments. I'm certainly not going to give away the whole thing. And my original talk was going to be strictly on AI, how it's abusive, how it's foretold in the Bible, and ultimately where it's going, and ultimately who's the source behind it. But there's a lot of gaps you got to fill in to build up to that. And I'm going to give you one of many gaps right here on the show. We're going to revisit Amy Eskridge. Now, yesterday, I had no idea I was going to do the revision. 2:30 in the morning is when I had to get up. I had to be at the airport by 3:30. And then flight takes off. I got a connecting flight in Dallas and dead tired. And in that time is when I believe the Lord started speaking to me. And it's all well and good what you're doing, but you're not seeing big picture, and the people need to see the big picture. They don't need to have all the minuscule details. Because if we want them to stand for what's correct, give them the big picture, they'll find out the rest. And this is pretty clearly the message I got. And the day before, I'd felt that I'm missing something with these dead and missing scientists. What is it that I'm not seeing? And I felt compelled, and again, I think this is a word of knowledge. Let's go back. I had done something on this, and I talked a little bit about Amy Eskridge. I'm going to talk a lot about her today in this segment. But I thought, okay, I need to replay for the audience this. And I don't know why. I just had this compelling reason to put this back in front of you. And I said there, by demand, the demand, I think, of the Holy Spirit saying, Dave, do this. So I played a replay of the dead and missing scientists and what I know. And then I'm on the plane and I realized I know why. I know why. It's part of the picture that I'm going to talk about at this conference. And it's part of what you need to know. And in this particular segment, I'm going to talk to you about Amy Eskridge and the technology that she represented, and the technology that all the dead and missing scientists. By the way, did you know that in Germany they're going through the same thing? I just came across this with a couple people from Germany that had told me, said, Dave, did you know that you've done a lot on this? Do you know we're going through the same thing in Germany? And then I've heard too it's going on in Russia. And these people now have a common thread. And I know what the thread is, and I know why they're doing it. And I'm going to share that with you right after the break. We are brought to you by Noble Gold, and we live in a time of financial instability. If President Trump is hoodwinked into going back into this war and expanding it with ground troops, the draft, and everything else that I've stated publicly, I'm afraid could be coming, and our economy will collapse. We get anywhere, depending on time of year, 12 to 20% of our oil from foreign import. Oh, we're energy sufficient. No, we're not. We have more oil than we can use, but it's not oil all the time that we can use. Difference between heavy and light, and I've discussed that before. So we export the one we can't use because the oil companies don't think it's profitable to spend 10 to 15 years to develop new kinds of refineries. But there are foreign countries that do it, so we sell the oil to those foreign countries. So we are energy deficient in terms of meeting our needs, and we need imports. Hence, Trump can say the Strait of Hormuz is not a factor in our energy independence, and he is mistaken. The president is mistaken on that point. And I believe this is the war we're supposed to lose. Another topic for another time. I believe this is the war that some people hope, not all, and I don't think the president. But if you look at the end projection here, if we're not getting what we need oil-wise and we're expending a lot of it in combat operations, you are going to be rationed. Supply chains are going to be affected, and the most notable effects will come with regard to food and medicine because everything is shipped. And what's really scary is a lot of your medicine comes from where? I can't hear you. Yeah, that's right. China. China. The company, Communist Party is a company. It's a corporate oligarchy. And it's brutal. They want you gone for your resources. And someday they're going to shut off the spigot for things that you need to survive. And we're going to be covering that in a later segment too. But I want to talk about the dead and missing scientists, though, as an element of all this under this umbrella. And I'm pretty sure I know why they were eliminated. And I've told you a story in my past that I should have, hey, stupid, pay attention, Dave, you already have the answer. But I think it took God knocking on my thick skull to tell me, you need to pay attention to this and then tell the people so the people can adequately prepare. And I've given you a lot of elements of this, but I haven't tied it together. Stay tuned. We're going to do that right here. We're brought to you by Noble Gold. And the bottom line is, as I started to say with Noble Gold, if our economy goes into a tailspin, and that could be true, where our GDP to debt ratio is 120, right? Right, 120%. No nation's ever come back from that except one, and that was us after World War II. And the way they did it is they inflated the dollar to make the real value of the debt worth less, and the people paid for bringing the debt down. Well, they didn't have $40 trillion of debt. We do. This is going to be devastating to you, and you can look at inflation like we haven't seen since the Carter years, and it could be sustained over a number of years just to pay down the debt. That is the plan. The other plan is to just scrap the dollar and go to digital dollar. And hello, all the things that we worry about that came out of the World Economic Forum, the meeting of world leaders, you will own nothing and be happy, says their leader, Klaus Schwab. And now who's the head of the World Economic Forum? Larry Fink of BlackRock. And if you've seen our stuff on BlackRock, let's put it this way. He's not a Christian man that you'd want your children to emulate. And I'll just say it that way. And it's pretty scary where he wants to take the world if he has his way. And I think that you all need to realize this is where we're at now. We are going through a profound change, and I have realized that. And Noble Gold can help you weather this storm. It'll protect the value of what you have. Your inflation will kill your savings, right? The banks can even take your money under Dodd-Frank 2010 if they're in distress. They can take your retirement on it. Noble Gold has all that. They will give you an IRA based on gold and silver backing, right? Where you right now, you're backed on a failing dollar if you're in the bank. They can convert that, and they have little nice rewards for you that you can see when you go and call them, and they'll refer you to a website. They call 877-646-5347. If you want to preserve your wealth and you want to step outside the storm, and so you go 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the road, and people's savings is devastated by inflation. Oh, the numbers may have grown a little bit, but it hasn't kept up with inflation, and their buying power is less. If you don't want that to happen to you, you need to look at gold. And Noble Gold is who I trust. I have been a customer for over 9 years. I have never dealt with another gold company, ever, never, ever. And hopefully I'll never have to, because Noble Gold will be there leading the way. Now, I have to give you a warning from the FTC. Nothing is ever guaranteed. But I'll just say this, Noble Gold has 6,000 years of history on their side, where gold has been the most dominant and stable resource of wealth that the world has ever seen. That's an historical fact. And no FTC warning can take that part away. But they are correct in having me warn you that nothing is always guaranteed. There's also a level of uncertainty when you invest in anything. And we want to honor that requirement by telling you that. But I have always put my money where my mouth is. I have gold and silver from Noble Gold, 877-646-5347. Now, you say this commercial went on a while. I'm teaching you about the world. And it happens to be that Noble Gold fits into that paradigm. We are looking at increased resource shortage, and it's deliberate. What's a factor? What's a factor in the data centers? Water usage, correct? Am I right? And the water needs for one facility owned by Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, in Utah, is going to use 5 times more water than the entire state consumes privately and corporately. 5 times more. Where are they going to get the water? Uh-huh. And what could this ultimately affect if people can't get the water that they need? And think for a second, what have I already told you? Data centers are going into Arizona at the second fastest rate in the country. The only one that's ahead of us is Virginia. And in Arizona, in my home, we are drought ridden for over 2 decades. We are in danger of losing generating electric power from the Hoover Dam, 35 feet away. Lake Mead, no different. 3 different water sources. And also, what has happened? The federal government has told downstream states, Southern California, Arizona and Nevada, we're taking a lot of your Colorado water. What? We're already drought ridden. Now the data centers are coming in. And by the way, if you protest the data center, we've already seen internal documents leaked from DHS saying they consider you to be a domestic terrorist if you're organizing protests against data centers. What? It's a rigged game to take away your water. And you say, is that a conspiracy theory? I don't care. That was a term invented by the CIA in 1967 to say, if you think the Kennedy assassination was a conspiracy, you're a conspiracy nut. And then they tried to discredit any conspiracy theory that followed. This is not a theory. These are facts that are true. One, the Southwest, it has a huge water shortage. The dam water resources, that's DAM, not DAMN, the dam water resources are at all-time lows. We're in big trouble. We've been cut back on our water. We're drought ridden. And some people say, well, it's weather manipulation from Project HARP. Maybe. I don't know. I can't say that for sure. Does the technology exist? Yes, it does. You can look at the patents. Nick Begich, Congressman Nick Begich, right? He wrote a book in 1997 called Angels Don't Play This Harp, HAARP, and he laid out all the patents. I released a document I was given by a retired general called Air Force Owning the Weather 2025. And it showed that not only can they do weather manipulation, they can also do earthquake manipulation. That's what the patents say. Now, how this relates into real weaponry, I don't know. They don't disclose that because that's secret. But I'm just saying that if we don't think in these terms, that some people might do dastardly things and they have the ability to do it. Now, why would they want to create water shortages? Oh, and it's not just here. In Germany, if you water your grass, you're breaking the law. It's 50,000 euro fine. Oh, if you water your garden during the day, it's a $50,000 fine. Oh, if you water at night but leave it on to where it floods and spotted by aerial drones, it's a $50,000 fine, possible jail time. That's Germany. This is international, people. It's not just the Southwest of the United States. Water shortages are being created by the data centers. Why are they being built in places like the Southwest where water is a huge issue? If we took the data centers away, populations are still at somewhat of a risk, certainly with higher rates at a minimum problem, availability on the higher end. Why would they bring in something that introduces more water shortage? And what does water shortage affect? Crops. I have another example for you that I've already covered. I showed a map recently of the Ogallala Water Reservoir stretching from Texas to South Dakota. And they're putting a plethora of data centers there. And the Ogallala Water Reservoir is no longer self-sustaining. Two rivers have changed direction. Don't know why that's true. I'm not saying someone did it on purpose, but it's a fact. And the only replenishment the reservoir gets is from rain and snowfall. Well, it's evaporating at, what is it, 12 inches a year, and the replenishment average over the last 10 years is 1 inch. It's a diminishing water supply that supplies water to 40 million people. So why would you allow a resource draining operation like a data center come into that area and begin to lift water out? And I've raised that question before. And this is the breadbasket. Without the breadbasket's crops, we have famine. That's not an exaggeration. And that, I'm comfortable saying, is 100% a fact. And in the Southwest, with California, the agriculture there, it would not just cause a famine if they lost it nationally, it would be global. And in Arizona, we're right there with them. This is a major, major issue. Now, this is where I had what I think is the word of knowledge. First of all, I believe all things evil come from Satan. And Satan uses minions to carry out his wishes and desires. This, to me, is pretty satanic. When you're threatening the food supply of not just the region, but the world by creating water shortages, okay, whether or not there's weather manipulation, and by the way, you don't think that exists? Let me go back to my childhood. The late 60s, early 70s, Colorado thought, well, gee, if it snows earlier, We get to open the ski resorts earlier, we make more money on tourism. And so they began to seed clouds to have earlier snowfall. That's a fact. You can go back and look it up in the newspapers. There's no conspiracy involved. It was weather manipulation for profit. And no one really had a problem with it. You just seed the clouds a little bit. So if you don't think the technology exists, yeah, and basically, how does the technology exist for weather manipulation? Just to digress for a minute, all the patents say electrify the jet stream and move it, you change the weather. And if you know how to move it, then you know how to change the weather. That's what the patents tell us. Now, I'm not even going into that direction. What I'm saying is, A, we have a drought. I won't get into causation. B, we're making the drought far worse with extreme data center usage. C, you're going to have food supply problems, food development problems. And then we're fighting a war where shipping things could be an issue because of oil shortage. Now we're looking at food and medicine. I hope I'm making sense here to you. I hope this is starting to, oh, I get it, because this is what hit me when I was at 35,000 feet. We will control what you eat, said the World Economic Forum. Remember the diet they came up with? Remember that? They were selling this to the attendees at the World Economic Forum. And if you're not familiar with that, people, it's the who's who in corporate and who's who in political power. Heads of state go there. Trump recently went there. It's the who's who. That's why you got to take what they say seriously. When these leaders congregate, I think you should listen to what they say and believe them when they say certain things that you may make you uncomfortable. I believe they want us to be totally dependent on distribution of resources we need to survive so they can control us. Now, my mind says, where does it go from there? Because if you could, well, let's talk about what Henry Kissinger once said, right? He once said, if you control oil, you control nations. But if you control food, you control the people. And if you look at Stalin and what he did to Ukraine, no wonder the Ukrainians hate the Russians, right? Stalin starved 20 million of them to death because they dared ask for independence. But we'll give them independence from life, the Holodomor. So if you don't think food can't be weaponized, you're not looking at history. And the death camps, they extracted labor in many of these death camps, but they systematically reduced the calories and they starved them to death over time while they benefited from their labor. Well, I'd say that's pretty satanic, wouldn't you? But this is a part of undeniable history. Particularly Jewish people who are so well educated in the Holocaust. And God bless them for sharing these stories, because it serves as a warning that we need to be the watchman on the wall for what could be coming. And I'm not projecting death camps at this point and where the participants are going to have labor taken from them and they're systematically starved, but we see elements of it. Why should homelessness be a crime, particularly in an economy where the rich are getting richer and 65% of the country can't afford a $500 car repair bill? I'm not a communist, but I'm telling you, there's something wrong with this, and wealth redistribution doesn't work. It's never worked. It's never solved the problem of resource satisfaction with the middle and lower classes. It's just been a readjustment of wealth from one political group that's rich to another political group that's rich. That's all communism does. So I'm not calling for the Mondami, let's steal from the rich and give to the poor. That never works. It doesn't ever happen. But what I am telling you is we are living in an increasing oligarchy where the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, and it's creating massive problems. And if you introduce research, let's put it this way. Let me put it in plain English. If your food resources are diminished because of water shortages with an already economically impoverished nation, you will have massive issues. And you're going to have civil unrest. You're going to have food riots. I mean, this history is filled with examples of this. Am I projecting that? If this continues, yes, I am. if somehow it can be stopped, well, then hopefully we can avoid the worst. But I believe what's happened here is this, is that data centers, one of the nefarious purposes done by the tech bros is to create water shortages. I think it's my hypothesis that this is intentional so they can control us. Why would they need to control us? And I've asked myself that question. So now we're just thinking out loud. Okay. So I'm thinking out loud. AI, Bill Gates said there's not a job that can be done that can't be replaced by AI. The experts in the field that I've talked to, some I've interviewed, they say about 90% of your jobs could eventually be replaced. Okay, well, here's what the tech bros out of Silicon Valley say. Oh, don't worry, don't worry. You're going to have a life of leisure. Universal basic income. I have two problems with this. Number one, how much money would they give us? Because we'd be dependent on their generosity since they're making all the money and we've got a large mass of unemployed people. How much money are they going to give us? Well, if a government that has been relatively decent through our existence, the US government, if they can't provide Social Security wage that keeps you at the standard of living that you retired at, you think these tech bros that are largely godless, and they say it, they make statements like this guy Yarvin, who's influenced Peter Thiel and Samuel Altman. They make statements like freedom and democracy are incompatible. Um, They won't commit to the fact that humanity should survive. Peter Thiel said that in a podcast interview. It's been played probably a million times on YouTube. Do you trust these people to fund your existence at a decent level? Do you think the tech bros have demonstrated any kind of compunction to be that generous? I don't. I don't. If I thought they were people of God, I would consider it, but they are godless. And they tell you they are godless. And their actions say they are godless. We have a big issue. Resource resistance is an issue. And Henry Kissinger is correct. If you control food, you control the people. And if you control water, you control the food. Colorado's pending legislation, 50 liters on your smart meter detection, 50 liters. You get to that, your water gets shut off for the day. Can't water your home garden. See, if we have a problem with agriculture, everybody should have a home garden. You know, my friend Daisy, she's come across, she said, this is how you home garden in an apartment. And I've had her on the show to talk about that. Very useful information. Daisy's right. But if they're going to limit your water and they're going to fine you tremendously, and this isn't just an American Southwest problem. We're now seeing it in Germany. Where else? Scotland, Ireland, we're seeing it. Same kind of resource limitations. You should be worried that the wrong people are influencing our government to the detriment of all of us. Now, here's the problem. What will they gain if they can control your water and limit the distribution power? How far will the power go? Will they bring us a Holodomor where they starve 20 million to death or more like Stalin did in Ukraine? I don't know. But I don't see these people as being godly. So I think it's an option we need to throw out there and say, hey, we need to be on the lookout for this because we don't really trust the moral character of these people. We're giving too much power to these people. Why would any community allow a data center to come in that could affect its agricultural production is beyond me. Why? I just talked to a gentleman at the conference I'm at. He's here to watch, and I'm going to try to get to know he and his wife a little better because he knows operations of data centers I didn't know until I talked to him. And I'm going to be sharing some of those with you. Perhaps he'll come on as a guest. I think if it's not professionally damaging to him, he will. But I was basically told what's coming with the water from the data centers is not just depletion, it's a whole lot worse. It's an issue. Now, I said I was going to talk about the scientists. This is where I'm setting up for the next segment. I believe water deprivation in this country is being done deliberately. That's a Hodges hypothesis. I'm not stating that as fact, but I'm telling you that ding went into the head when I'm at 35,000 feet, not oxygen deprived. And I'm thinking, this is what makes sense to me. Now, why would you want to control water and food? Because then you control all wealth, you have control all power, and you are the king. And when people have a lot of money, like a Larry Ellison, who's basically buying up the media right now, and these people have this much money, what's next? Power. See, money is used as a buffer against starvation, keeping yourself safer. Okay. And that's a functional use of money that no one would say it's immoral as long as you make it legally and you're not exploitive. Then, when you get more money than you could possibly spend in a lifetime, then you start thinking, they need to keep these people where they are. So I'm the powerful one. And that means you need to enact power policies. And this is where the Bible says the root of all evil is the love of money. And I maintain the tech bros have repeatedly shown us who they are. So my hypothesis is not that far-fetched when you bring in scripture and you look at the behaviors that are clearly described in the Bible. And we've seen this over and over and over again in biblical history. So where does this leave us? Why are these scientists being taken? Because the technology they're connected to is a threat to keeping power over the people. Are you ahead of me yet? I wish I could get inside all of your minds. For some of you, I think the light just went on and you go, oh, I know what Dave's talking about. I'm going to give you a little history lesson in the next segment, and then I'm going to tie together these different parts into a comprehensive understanding. And who are the people that really support this the most? Well, the Republicans are on board now. Okay? They've been captured. But the Democrats have been there for a long time. And here's the thing that should scare you about Democrats. They took God out of their party platform years ago. And when they have done that, I got to say, I couldn't vote for you. Okay, like John Fetterman, I disagree with a lot of his views. But I think, honestly, from a secular point of view, he's a pretty good guy. And he tries to be fair and reasonable and he listens. He's a human being I could sit down across the table from and have a good discussion with. He's not a wild-eyed, crazy, pink-haired, I'll smack you in the face if you disagree with me. He's not that way. And he criticizes people in his party who are extremists. Here's the problem. He's in a party that doesn't think God belongs in the party. And I'm a God-fearing person that says, if that's your position, I can't support anything you do. I don't care how noble it looks on the surface, because how do I know you're not doing Satan's work and you're deceived and you'll lead people to destruction? That's where I come from on this. And that guides me. And this is why I said a couple of weeks ago, and it shocks some people, I won't vote for anyone that I don't think is a born-again Christian. And I'm going to miss some, but at least I'm trying. And I think that if enough of us wrote in candidates that were God-fearing Christians and we could make this a mass movement, the system would panic. Trust me, they'd take voting away in a day. They couldn't control it. But stay tuned, because we're coming back. And we're going to tell you why these scientists, both here, and now I found out in Germany, and also in Russia, they're being murdered or disappeared. And I think I found the single thread, and I've laid the baseline for your understanding. Now, with all things, all problems, we are not the solution. Satan is more clever, has more resources than any individual. There's only one weapon you can bring to bear. No, no, put down your pitchfork and your M16. That's not what I'm talking about. The only weapon you have at your disposal is telling your neighbor and you agree in prayer. Where two or more are gathered, and the power of prayer can do anything. And by the way, I've been working on research. It started off being AI related. I thought I heard about this study, and I don't trust AI and religion together. I don't. But I looked at it, but then I looked at research independent of AI, and it said a lot of the same things. I'm going to be sharing that with you before much longer, too, about do prayers that bring miracles in the face of overwhelming obstacles, do they have certain things in common? And the answer is yes. But people who've contributed to the Bible say, well, we could have told you that 2,000 years ago because Jesus taught us how to pray. We'll be covering that as well. Stay tuned. Next segment is going to be interesting, and we're going to get into what do these scientists all have in common.